Thank you, Mayor Lambert, members of the council. We've been here before talking about well number 10. As you'll recall, we bid this project late in the fall of 2015, and due to some procedural issues, I had a need to reject those bids. We have since gone back out to a rebid of the project and are here before you again to award it this time, is our plan. So I want to take a minute and just kind of help orient folks a little bit, and certainly our new council member as well. This is just a quick overview of the community of Moscow here, and it shows some of the existing wells out through the community, the city's well number 6, well number 8, and well number 9 here next to the Palouse Mall, University of Idaho wells on the east end of the mall and Farm Road area. And then our well number 10 site, which is here just right on the state line, state of Washington, and the very western edge of the city of Moscow. Zooming in a little bit, here's that same state line. So that's a Washington hayfield. Of course, War Bonnet, Pullman Road, State Highway 8, and A Street as it terminates at the state line and city limit. And this little piece of property here in red is the parcel that was acquired by the city probably 15, 20 years ago for the purpose of construction of well number 10. And this is a drawing that previously came before the council back in the spring, actually, of 15, when we were awarding a small contract for grading the site to create a nice little flat pad here for the actual construction and siting of the well itself. That work was done last summer, is complete, and so it is now ready to accept the construction of the well or drilling of the well itself. So we took the project back out to bid in December. We had 3 bidders this time around as compared to 2 previously. This is a summary of the bids that were received along with the engineer's estimate there in the top line. You'll see 2 different schedules, Schedule A and Schedule B. This was done to provide the city the option in terms of selecting the size of the well itself. Schedule A uses a 20-inch diameter well casing, where Schedule B would be a 24-inch diameter well casing. It is anticipated that this well will be in the neighborhood of anywhere from 1,000 to 1,300 feet deep, and will have a capacity of at least 2,500 gallons per minute, and possibly more than that depending on what we encounter in terms of the water supply in that area. Our consultants, Golder Associates, believes that the well will be capable of more than 2,500 GPM, gallons per minute, possibly in the range of 3,000 to maybe even 3,300, depending on what we encounter. That is important when you consider Schedule A versus Schedule B and where the city may be going with potential water right consolidations in the future that would allow us more flexibility in how we operate our wells and utilize the water rights that we have throughout the city. So that's the reason, along with a few other issues, that we put both schedules in the bid. Schedule A would be the smaller casing, would accommodate a 2,500 gallon per minute well, very similar to what well number 9 is, with certain types of equipment. The larger casing, Schedule B, would accommodate potentially a larger producing well if we have the ability to do that, the supply and the water rights issues that go with it, but also allow us some more flexibility with respect to the type of equipment that we ultimately put in the hole to then produce that water. It also gives us a little more flexibility in terms of the alignment of the well itself. When you're constructing a well and you think about a boring operation that has some sort of a circular motion going, and you're punching a hole that's 20 or 24 inches in diameter down into the ground 1,000 feet or 1,300 feet, there's that potential for that column to waver. It may not be completely straight and plumb. Well, if you get much wavering, then it makes it more difficult to put in certain pieces of equipment. A larger diameter casing relieves some of that pinch that we might otherwise have. So it gives us more flexibility in terms of what type of equipment, and if there's a slight waver in that drilling alignment, it doesn't preclude us from still putting in the types of facilities that we need to put in for this particular well. So the staff recommendation, based on those types of considerations, is that we do install the larger casing, Schedule B, the 24-inch diameter. With that particular schedule, the low bidder is Boart Longyear at a little over $1.3 million, actually quite a bit lower than the other two bidders in that particular schedule. The overall cost of that 1.3 as compared to the low bidder for the smaller casing, 1.21 million. While it's a fair amount of money in the $100,000 range, when you consider the size of the investment and the fact that this well was going to be probably the largest well the city is going to drill for a long time, and that we may not be drilling a lot more wells in the next couple of decades. I can see at least one perhaps. So it's important to make sure we do it right. We build a facility that's going to service for our needs in the community and water supply for many, many years. So with that, the recommendation from staff is to award to Boart Longyear the Schedule B bid for the drilling of well number 10.
Okay. Walter.
Less a surprise question. I didn't think of it till just now. This is just a hole in the ground.
With a lot of pipe in it, but yes, it is a hole in the ground.
Do you know what the budget is for the pump and controls and control building to complete this as a producing well?
The number for the second phase, as I recall, was in the $800,000 to $900,000 range to actually install the equipment down in the hole in the ground, as well as any above ground equipment for the pumping operation, for backup power supply for the building, chlorination, all the control systems, the electrical, all the rest of that above ground facility.
And to tie it into the system?
We had a budget of about $300,000 for the connection to the system.
So another $1 million.
Overall, another $1 million, 1.1, somewhere in that range.
Thank you. Good memory.
Thank you.
Where's Boart Longyear out of?
I believe their office is in the Portland region, if I recall. None of these firms are local. Some are from the Seattle area, and then others both in western Oregon.
Yeah, I saw that they've done a lot of work in Utah, and I guess my second question is, flipping through here, what is a culinary well?
Culinary well means a potable supply.
Oh, so that's
versus,
just Utah,
for instance, an
Utah
irrigation
words?
well. Right.
Okay.
Different states have different terminology for that.
Thank you.
Plus, I was wondering, why do you have an engineer's estimate that's so different from what their bid came in?
The engineer's estimate is the number that is prepared by our consultant that has done the design of the well drilling operation, prepared the bid package and specifications. They provide us an estimate of what they think the cost of the well will be based on what they have seen in the market in recent years for wells of this size and capacity. I will say that there are not a lot of wells that are of this diameter and depth that are drilled in the Northwest. I mean, they do happen. We've actually had some down in the Lewiston area here in the last couple of years that Boart drilled. They were for Lloyd down there. And so they gave us an estimate on what they believed the cost would be based on what they saw in other bids in the area. It helps us in terms of some of our budgeting. It can be used to also provide a number for the bidders if the city chooses to do so, that they could use as a reference to get a kind of an idea of what the scale of the cost might be. In this case, they were a bit low.
Walter, did you have another question?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Dan, their mailing address and their bid is Salt Lake City.
This one's Salt Lake.
Yeah, I thought I saw a lot of Utah stuff, but couldn't find their mailing address.
Yeah, it's on their bid, their signed bid sheet. And if I may, a question, Mr. Mayor?
Continue.
I'm blank. I'll pull it back up in a second.
Salt Lake.
Okay, other comments? John, do you have any?
Well, yeah, I'm just, I guess, observations more than anything else. At the beginning, this Boart Longyear was 180,000 roughly over the estimate, and now they have reduced their price significantly, and now they're only 90,000 or 100,000 over the price that the engineer estimated. What did they do to lower that price? Are we still getting essentially what we need? They sharpen their pencil? Just what happened on that deal?
It's always interesting when you look at the way that contractors bid projects, and wells are a particularly interesting type of construction. When we look at the detailed numbers, the price per foot of drilling, the price per foot of casing, site preparation, pumping, all those kind of things that they do, they vary tremendously from one bidder to the next. What it appears that Boart has done that the others have not done is that when they went to the larger diameter casing, it did not substantially affect their price per foot for the drilling operation, whereas the others went up quite a bit. And so that's really where I think the greatest difference lies between the three bidders is that, how much does it cost to drill each foot along the way? Boart from between 20 and 24, not terribly different. For the others, quite a bit.
Okay.
Well, so when I was looking at that broke it down, what layers they were going through, is it because they had better information on what was beneath, what they were going to be boring through?
Now, all of the bidders were provided the same drill logs from well number 9 that showed what our experience was back in 1981 when that particular well was placed. So it gave them an idea of what the stratigraphy was as you go on down through the soils. I think they provided us an example of one that they drilled elsewhere, and that may be the one that you saw, where the others didn't have that in their package.
Art, did you have a comment?
Well, I was just thinking that for an additional $100,000, we gain a lot in terms of the construction and reliability and future performance of the well. And that's something we're supposed to be doing, is looking not only what do we need today, but what are we going to need into the future 15 or 20 years. And I'm all for going for the larger well, just to accommodate our future needs and not just our need right now on our horizon at the moment.
Well, the 24-inch casing makes sense.
Yep. And for the additional money between the two, I think it's a bargain. Drill it once and do it right.
Dan?
We had a lot of trouble with the pump out there at 9.
Yes.
It's not a 24, is it?
It is a 20.
It's a 20, okay. Do folks have a pretty good experience with that, with the larger diameter pump? I mean, you talked about Boart drilling some down in Lewiston. How's their experience been with it? I mean, we know how ours was, whether it was lightning strikes or just bad bearings. With that 20-incher, how's folks' experiences with those 24-inch pumps?
24s. Obviously every pump is unique out there, and I think folks have different experiences based on their specific situations. Part of the problem we encountered with well number 9 using a submersible pump is trying to fit in a pump and motor of that magnitude, 2,500 gallons per minute, in a 20-inch casing. It's a very tight fit. When you consider also that you're putting in there power cables and other guide tubes for measuring water levels, and there's just a lot of things that have to fit in a fairly small space. And there are some limitations then on what you can do for motor size and horsepower within that small space. And I think that's part of what happened originally in well 9, that 450 horse motor that was there. I mean, it was really at the upper end of the capacity of that motor to handle that particular size of pump. And so it led to problems. We were able, under today's more modern designs, to go to the 600 horse that we have today. It barely fits. Yeah. We would have certainly much more room to work with a 24 to provide just that 2,500 GPM, let alone maybe go into something larger.
And this will be a submersible pump as well?
Well, that's the option it leaves us. We could go to submersible with a larger volume in a 24-inch casing. If we go to the smaller casing, then if we want the larger volume, we can only use a line shaft turbine style.
John?
Let me get this straight. With 24-inch well, we could use a 20-inch pump, but with a 20-inch well, we could not use a 24-inch pump. Is that correct, Les?
With the 20-inch well, you're limited to about a 16-inch diameter pump. With the 24-inch, you can go to, I believe it's in the neighborhood of 20 or 21-inch diameter pump. And obviously, there's a difference in capacity when you do that.
So you can increase your capacity by almost 30%.
Potentially, yes. Yes. I mean, we've not looked at, what the upper end is yet. Part of what we looked at is, what would accommodate a 2,500 if we were to go to 3,000 or maybe 3,200, what would it take? And a 24-inch would support that with a submersible, 3,000 or 3,200, possibly larger, but we haven't looked at larger facilities.
Well, I agree with Dan and Art. I think that we ought to go with the larger well. I think it'll serve us better in the future. It'll give us some leeway, and the other positive things that both of them said about it. So I'd make a motion that we accept the Bart Langier bid, Schedule B, in the amount of $1,339,392.
You want to authorize staff to have change orders?
Well, there's a 10% override in here, isn't there, Les?
If that is part of your motion, then yes, that would be and that's our standard practice, is a 10%
Yeah,
authorization for staff on change orders, if you'd like to include that.
And that would, yes. Thanks, Art. That would include a 10% override if necessary.
I would second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by John, a second by Art, to accept the low bid, Schedule B, from Bort Longyear and award the contract in the amount of $1.339,392 million with a 10% change order up to $133,930. You got a question, Walter?
I remember my question.
Oh. Well, we almost got through.
Les, do you have, I know you're going to tell me you do, and I just wanted to hear it said and a little bit of explanation. We have budget authority for 110% of $1,339,000.
Yes, sir.
And does it require any shuffling of money between accounts in order to get above that engineer's estimate that you referred to as being a budget-type item to Catherine earlier?
Sure. The overall project budget for Well 10, which of course includes the second phase, is well beyond this number. So we have the budget authority to proceed with this phase. In terms of the overall budgets within the project, there may be some shuffling that will be needed that would bring in some additional funds, actually from the water capital program, to address these higher numbers. We have it available, and we've identified where that would come from within the water capital program. So we can, so we're okay there, and we can proceed with this one.
Thank you.
Okay, we're good to go. We got a motion. John, I'll start the roll with you.
Aye.
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 And I.
Okay, we moved on 5-0, so we're in good shape on that.